Oh,
Right.
it's different.
Is
Hi everyone. We have like 20-ish people coming in.
Forty.
pretty
Wow,
good in it.
that was fast. We will just wait a few minutes and then we will get started. Everyone feel free to drop in the chat where you are calling from. We would love to hear from you. About 40 people coming in. Thank you, Arunas, for the question. Oh, thank you, Todd. I think attendees can drop their thoughts in the Q&A chat room instead of the normal chat. Thank you, Jane. Yeah, let's just drop thoughts in the Q&A. All right. I think we can get started, Shaurya. So welcome everybody to the panel. Why isn't industrial design considered STEM? Today, we have 8 amazing panelists coming to share their unique perspective on this topic. First, we have Louise Manfredi from Brown University, Marty Gage from Langston, also Jayati Sinha from Women in Design San Francisco chapter, and Tucker Viemester from Parsons School of Design. Louise and Tucker previously had another panel on STEM as well during last year's International Design Conference. So we are very happy to have them again. And next we have Divya Chaurasia from Spitfire Industry, also Donté Shannon from IDSA National. Donté is the director of IDSA, so we are very, very honored to have him today. And Jason Morris from Western Washington University, and Thomas S. from Pennsylvania College of Technology. So we would just run through everyone to ask them what are the perspectives they would like to bring to the table today and why they want to be part of the panel. So let's just start from Louise.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Joyce. I'm delighted to be here talking about the intersection of design and technology, engineering, science, and mathematics. It's a really interesting area to talk about. So yeah, as Joyce had mentioned, I was on an IDC panel with Tucker last year, and I've been thinking about this for a while now since then. So I'm excited to share some perspectives that I have from being trained as a designer and as an engineer, and I'm willing and ready to be convinced.
Thank you, Louise. Okay, Marty, what's your thought?
Hi, my thought is that as an employer of people, I want to be able to bring on the people that make sense. And sometimes my hands are tied and I can't do anything.
Thank you. Jayati?
Hello, everyone. So I actually come from a STEM design program. So I wanted to bring that perspective to like how that helped me. And I'm super excited to be part of this. And thank you for organizing this.
Thank you. Tucker?
So the question is not whether industrial design is a STEM profession. It's like, why aren't we recognized as that? And so that's why I'm here. And thanks to Joyce and the other students at Parsons, they brought it to my attention that they don't have a STEM accreditation, and that means that because of that, they can only have 1 year of a visa after they graduate instead of 2 for STEM students.
Thank you, Tucker. Divya?
Hi, I come from a non-STEM master's program and I have an undergrad in engineering. So I would love to share my experience from an art school and an engineering school and work and how all of those have so much overlap, and how ID should definitely be STEM and what we can do about it.
Thank you. Donté?
Yeah, so thank you, Joyce and Shaurya, for inviting me to participate in this discussion. I'm here because, one, I want to learn more about this topic and this subject and why it is important to our stakeholders, especially as a new CEO of IDSA. But I'm also here also because I believe that our associations, no matter what industry, should be advocates and be people who are helping to push their fields forward for whatever industry they're in. And so I'm here to participate and be an advocate as well.
Thank you, Donté. Jason?
Hi, good afternoon or evening. My program at Western is a Bachelor's of Science in Industrial Design, and we live in the Engineering and Design department. So I can speak from our perspective as an ID program that lives within the science and engineering structure.
Thank you. We'll have Thomas.
Yes, hello everyone. So Penn College is where the Penn State Industrial Design program lives. And we have a Bachelor of Science program, and my undergrad was mechanical engineering, and I'm a licensed professional engineer. And I moved into industrial design. So the vertical intersection from concept to manufacturing is really useful and intriguing. And I'm happy to be part of this.
Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone, for sharing your initial thoughts. And okay, Shaurya, can you turn to the next page? Today, my name is Joyce. I'm from Parsons School of Design, and I will be the moderator today with Shaurya. Shaurya, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi everyone. excited to be here and hear everyone's thoughts on this pressing issue. And glad to moderate this conversation alongside Joyce. We also have Pri, who's also been helping us a lot with this, and other as well, who've been helping us with the situation as well.
Thank you.
And
okay. Yeah,
so,
you can go ahead.
What is important about STEM to industrial design as well? First of all, what do we mean when we say STEM? So when we say STEM, we're going to use STEM as like a short change for the STEM OPT extension, which is basically an extension that is offered to international students, and that falls into science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And it helps, bridge skill gaps. It helps support, education experiences and innovation research, because these students, international students at least, get offered a 2-year extension, like Tucker mentioned, on top of the OPT, the 1-year OPT, which gives us a total of 3 years and significantly more opportunities to, get jobs and all that. But it also helps a lot of industrial designers in general because of what it means to be STEM. And, this is basically the official definition of STEM, field of study. And
yeah, so on this page, we simply lay out what are the general benefits for different groups of people within the industry. For example, like Tucker mentioned, for international students, the most important thing, of course, is to get STEM OPT extension, which will help a lot. And also being a graduate student or undergraduate student coming from a STEM program, it somehow gives you higher employment chance just in general, because employer does have the access to know which program you're from, and also if it's a STEM program. And for local students, it also affects them a lot as well, because there are a lot of scholarships or grants that are only exclusive to STEM programs. And these are also the topics that Jason and Thomas will be talking about later. And for employers, as Marty mentioned, they can gain full access to talents from all over the world, and also potential saving on visa sponsorships. And what about for practicing professionals and educators, potential higher pay, and also STEM programs sometimes get higher governmental funding at school. So these are the general benefits, but we would talk about this a little bit more later.
so why don't we have STEM? So at Parsons in our time, we've tried to advocate for STEM OPT designation, and the way we did this was through the CIP code, which we'll later discuss in a bit. And long story short, it came down to integrity and making sure that we present to the government and to the students and to everyone involved what is, industrial design is to the government as well, which is why, while there's certain programs within the states that have the STEM OPT designation as industrial design, there's also a lot of programs within the states that do not have this, which is why, again, this issue is coming up as well, because every industrial design student should be considered STEM in our opinion. And Jayati, would you like to share your experience graduating from a STEM program, and how did that help the journey?
Yeah, of course. So, of course, apart from the fact that our course was specifically designed in a way that, we learned the technical aspects of building an actual product, which is a little bit of engineering, as well as, the artistic aspects. I think the biggest advantage of my STEM program was as Tucker mentioned, being able to stay in the US for 3 additional years. And seems like a small time maybe, but it really helped me network with people and actually build relationships with them. 1 year is not enough for you to be able to get to know a big group of people who are creative and might want to hire you, or just having conversations. So living in San Francisco, I met a lot of like founders and a lot of like journalists and people who wanted to talk to designers. So I think it really helped me. The 3 years really helped me. And apart from that, it also helped me publish new work. I am on an O1 visa. So for you to get an O1 visa, you need published work. And of course, if it's published in the US, it's more important. So I think it helped me tremendously to get my visa and like just networking and all of that. And to be part of women in design, like I wouldn't have met IDSA or people in my community without being, staying here for 3 years.
Yeah, that's a great point. And like speaking of this, I would love to invite Divya to share a little bit of your experience like on the other side for graduating from a non-STEM program. How does it look like?
Yeah, of course. So it was kind of a very different perspective, because when you know you only have 1 year to find a job, you just focus on that, and that doesn't allow you to explore different things. Like I recently found out that I love teaching, but I can't really do that right now because I'm on an H-1B visa, and I consider myself really lucky that I got a job and got visa sponsorship and everything. But in hindsight, if I had 2 extra years, it would have allowed me to explore all of the different ways that I could use my skills and what I really would like to focus on. I might still have ended up what I'm doing because I love my job, but it would still have been nice to know what I would like to do and meet more people and just not be in that constant survivor mode of, oh, I need to find a job right now.
Thank you. Thank you both for sharing your like different experience. And since we were talking about why don't we have STEM, we wanted to like point out an issue that when we were like researching and working on this problem, we noticed that the current industrial design CIP code definition is a little bit interesting to look into, which Shaurya is screen sharing right here. And I believe Tucker, Jason, and Thomas, you all have quite a lot of opinions on this, so please go ahead.
Yeah, I'll start. I think that this is a terrible definition of industrial design. It starts right off that it's applied visual arts, which we all know that we don't design only the skin of a product, we design the whole thing. And then it goes on to say that it's artistic techniques. And finally, it sums up with the idea that we deal with the relevance of aesthetic design parameters. It doesn't say anything about understanding how products are made, how new materials, the science of recycling or any of that stuff. It doesn't express anything about what industrial designers really do. And am I supposed to talk about my new definition?
Yes, we
You
will
have to
be
use
talking
math.
about that.
Do
Yeah.
you have to use math to be a designer?
Yeah.
Yes.
You have to add up how much money you're going to charge. But
I think one thing I would like to add is the CIP code refers to like the code that is used by the Department of Homeland Security and Department of Education, and every single degree in the states is accredited to a CIP code, and there's kind of two kinds of CIP code: the STEM OPT CIP codes and the non-STEM CIP codes. And right now, as you can read this, no one is going to read this definition and think that industrial design could possibly be STEM.
But let me read it. The other, so there's another definition that applies to industrial design that is accredited as STEM, but it's called human-centered technology design. And basically, it's the same as industrial design. It's about it looks at things from the human perspective. You learn about technology, interfaces, computers, interaction, learning, neuroscience, perception, and product design. It's even listed here. So it turns out that a bunch of schools have decided to change their CIP code to this one instead of fighting over changing industrial design. So I think they wimped out and took the easy way out and left the rest of us industrial designers in the playpen. So so I tried to write a new definition, and somebody said that the part that's in green here is from the U.S. Bureau of Labor and Statistics definition of industrial design. And so someone said, like, let's use that as the starting point, which says right off, it's a technical and critical skills essential to creating all these things, blah, 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 function. And then I added on and to be more specific about how we do problem solving, we use CAD, we're virtual reality, we're looking into the future of new technologies, and then both hardware and software, and towards a sustainable ecology for user experience beyond the future. And I thought that should really nail this STEM for us.
Thank you, Tucker. I would like to open up to Jason and Thomas, and of course the rest of the panelists. Like, what's your thoughts on the CIP goals that we are talking about?
I know Thomas had some notes on this. I know from the perspective in the Northwest, where the industrial designers are designing the interior of aircraft and thinking about human factors. And they're also designing like VR headsets and the ergonomics of the shape of a head or a face. So that's a big part of it. But whether it's human factors of the entire body or the entire of just a part of your body, that's an important part of our science and understanding industrial design.
Right, and I'm in general agreement here with what Tucker and Jason said. I think from our perspective, for example, we do a lot with medical devices, and it's important we all know that industrial designers deal with the other senses, not just the visual, and that's not even in the current definition. So the human factors element is really important, and because of the great democratization of the analytic tools, including engineering tools, it's much more accessible to people with less developed backgrounds in engineering. So people can go from concept to engineering to manufacturing quite vertically. So it's a whole new world. And the idea of wrapping plastic around electronics or being a stylist is really just a very small part of industrial design, but it's still embedded in the description.
Well, what would you? I always say that we learn intuitive engineering. In other words, making towers out of toothpicks. You learn about how structure, but intuitive engineering doesn't sound like real engineering. Is there another word for that?
Well, yes. I don't know if there's another word actually, because you're right. You get into definitions. The firewall with engineering is a certitude by which you can make statements. This will break, this will overheat, and you can do it with great public trust. But in industrial design, to be as you pursue sustainability and efficiency, we have to not over-design things too, or design things, and we see this all the time, where heat transfer is not understood. So something is designed. You see it in architecture a lot. Something is designed to be inefficient, and it will be inefficient for decades. It's awful. So there's no way you can design something. We all have an intuitive sense, at least in mechanical engineering, but our profession needs to push it to the next level and say, hey, we can handle engineering concepts, intuitive engineering, as you would call it, Tucker.
Yeah, and I would see it as qualitative principles versus quantitative, where the engineers might be measuring the modulus of a material, but an industrial designer would have the qualitative sense whether to choose one material or another.
Well, we routinely do stress analysis, our industrial designers. It's not that hard.
Yeah.
Some types of stress analysis, flexural and by certain types of analysis, is really not that difficult. It can, you just have to be humble about it.
Divya, what are your thoughts?
I wanted to add one thing that I realized this morning that all of us do. Thomas mentioned medical products and overheating and safety and compliance. We do a lot of baby products, and that is something, whether it's materials or stress analysis, and that's so much engineering involved in that, and even FDA approvals. We need to know like what additives can be added without and go deep into chemical engineering of plastics sometimes, depending on the product and what field it is in. And I think that should also be a part of the definition, that we need to take care and focus on making sure that products are safe for everybody.
Louise, what are your thoughts?
I find this really difficult to sort of pin down as to whether industrial design should be considered a STEM subject or whether it should be embraceful or embracing of what industrial design is and how that complements the STEM disciplines. There are obviously elements of some STEM areas that you can bring into the classroom, and I will always advocate for this. If you're a program coordinator for an industrial design program and you don't have this already, bring in an engineer. Have an engineer on your teaching faculty, because they're able to deliver a lot of this content for you, which is amazing and gives you that sort of STEM engineering analytical perspective. Yeah, I don't know. It's tricky for me, because for me engineering, because that's my, you know, what I know is a highly scientific process. What I've seen in industrial design teaching is not necessarily of that scientific nature. So I think they're complementary, but I'm not quite sure yet how to resolve whether industrial design is truly part of STEM.
I have something to say. I agree that in school it's more qualitative, but working as an industrial designer is more analytical and very scientific in the process compared to the way we learn at school. I do think there should be a lot more engineering courses and not just artistic side of industrial design should be taught, but I went to an art school on purpose because I had an engineering background. That was a very conscious decision to learn the artistic side of it. But while you're working as an industrial designer, I do think that a lot of the process and a lot of the things that we do are very scientific and parallel with engineering.
Thank you. Thank you all for sharing your thoughts. These are very, very important. Before we get to the next question, I want to invite the audience to like share your thoughts. How should we redefine industrial design better? Because it has a lot to do with how we are proceeding with this initiative, which we will explain later. And yeah, so feel free to drop your thoughts like in the Q&A or the chat. And following this, I would like to ask Donté, like, why do you think this topic is important for IDSA and like industrial designers to address?
Yeah, so even just hearing the discussion right now, right, it sounds like this zip code has influences on educational policy, and also sounds like diplomatic policy as well, which I know also impacts funding and things like that. Also, so like a misalignment of what industrial designers actually do is I think for our field and our profession going to really set us back and be a hindrance in the progression of the field of industrial design from many angles. Again, research funding for institutions, right? And people really understanding what industrial designers actually do, which I think then could lead to a misunderstanding of how curriculum gets developed and how important academic institutions make industrial design, or even how they categorize industrial design. So I think there's a lot of different components that are impacting industrial design by not having the right descriptor negatively from what I'm hearing in this conversation. And it seems like updating this would have positive impacts on the industrial design being able to progress forward and one, better prepare students to be, for what's actually happening in the workplace, in the practice of industrial design, but also, not putting barriers on them on the field and the field being an innovative field also, because if we don't have people who want to go into industrial design or people who don't understand what industrial designers do, that's again limiting the brain power, the creativity that we have in this field. And then the last thing I'll say too is I think this also has larger implications in impacting how humans, engage or impacting the world, because industrial designers, are designing things that are for humans every day. And so I think that, knowing that human needs are going to evolve and keep changing, if industrial design is not changing with that, and if we aren't making sure that we are keeping up with human needs by accurately defining what we do, that's going to be another barrier for us. So I think that those are the reasons why I think this is important, because it seems like it could be a hindrance to our profession and field as we try to evolve it and move it forward.
Thank you, Donté, for sharing your thoughts. And I'm just curious, since you mentioned students and education, what are your thoughts on potential changes that might need for the curriculum in order for industrial design to be included in the STEM list?
I'll answer that. I don't think there has to be any changes, because I think that like I said, there's a lot of intuitive engineering. There's a lot of bringing things together. And I think that basically the design process, the one that IDEO pushes all the time, is basically exactly the same as the scientific process. So the thing about industrial design is it's like science. It's like we're trying to find the truth by experimenting. And so that's the S in STEM.
Thank you, Tucker.
You've got ergonomic in here, and I just Googled it. Human factors is STEM.
Well, I'll mention on the STEM side, for example, we have an ergonomics and kinesiology class, and the prereqs are biology. So that's one interaction. And our engineering principles class has a prerequisite of physics. So to throw in to the discussion about curriculum changes, that might be part of it. And this is all within the structure of a strong art foundations.
Anyway, thank you everyone for your thoughts. And right before we continue on to the next topic, I would like for the audience to look into the poll that we're going to drop right now about what CIP code you guys have available.
Yes, we have the option industrial design CIP code here, and also the human-centered technology design that Tucker mentioned. And if your program is using other CIP codes, that's interesting as well. Or I believe some people also don't know what CIP codes they are using. We're just interesting to know.
If you don't know, go find out.
How come the panel can't vote? You guys.
You should be able to, maybe.
It says at the bottom that hosts and panelists can't vote.
Yeah.
Okay, we have 8 people who are using industrial design CIP code. Most of the people think they don't know.
And some human-centered technology. Okay. But there's a lot of people who do not have access.
For people who voted other CIP codes, you're welcome to drop like which one your program is using. We would love to hear that. But it's great to know that most people are still sticking with industrial design CIP Pro. And I believe like that's the reason why it'll be really beneficial if we can update it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we'll give it a few more seconds. Someone asked which one this person's using. We're using the industrial design CIP Pro. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much for voting.
Yeah, SCAD uses the STEM code, which is the human-centered technology.
Yep.
Okay, cool. So talking about STEM, Divya, having graduated from Pratt, well, like, you know, have you found out, has it affected your funding, research opportunities, or, you know, stuff like professional development?
If I'm being very honest, I did not pursue that very much. I could see that at Pratt, I would have liked if there were more research labs and more research happening in the ID department. It was very instructional. I chose that program specifically because I had no art background and I wanted to learn that. But in hindsight, it would have been really helpful. When I graduated, it started shifting a little bit. So I'm glad that Pratt was moving towards research a little bit more. But when I was there 4 years ago, not so much. How has it affected my professional development? I think I touched on that before, that if I had 2 more years to think about and structure all of my learning into what I would like to do, and what are my biggest strengths, and just having some time to explore different options, that might have changed things. Again, I was lucky that I have a job that I love, but it's always better to have some time to find out what you would like to do.
Thank you. Much appreciated.
And following this, I'm just curious, like, we did ask you before, but I'm curious, like, has there been any like voices or advocacy work going on at Pratt in terms of like the STEM designation?
I graduated a while ago, so I don't know if recently there has been any talks about STEM or changing the CIP code, but I do know there are people from Pratt in the audience. So if anybody wants to talk about that, we can do that during the Q&A discussion session.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And following this, as we mentioned in the beginning, that even local students, they will encounter challenges while like applying for scholarships or grants. And I would love to invite Jason and Thomas to share if your students have encountered any situations like this and how do they navigate that.
Go ahead, Thomas.
Well, I'm not sure exactly what you mean by collaborations. Joyce, you want to just elaborate on that, just to be fair?
Sorry, I was asking about the scholarship and grants that local students, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed that. Okay, well, with scholarships, yeah, there's definitely a firewall there in our world. Yeah, absolutely.
And how does that look like? Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I spoke with our scholarship committee, and they brought up the point that when they're looking at applications, there are a number of scholarships that are specifically for STEM majors, and ID students don't fall into that category. So, for example, we have a Washington State Opportunity Scholarship, which requires a focus on STEM. And if you look at the list of majors that they consider STEM, ID is not on that list. So I think with revised CIP, we would be able to make the argument to put it on the list so that they would have that eligibility.
Then I'm a little curious about, like, even at your school where industrial design program is considered STEM, that still like doesn't apply. So is it because like the official definition of industrial design is not considered STEM, so it doesn't apply? Or like even with school that it's considered?
Yeah, because it's still connected to that CIP definition.
I see. That's interesting.
Well, we encounter some unusual problems where people will confuse us with industrial engineering. So it can be it can be very strange on the scholarship side, but there's definitely a firewall between the STEM and other definitions.
What do you mean a firewall?
Meaning that they can't even apply for certain scholarships. Especially industry ones.
Does not having a bachelor's of science automatically confer it as STEM?
No, well, here I'm referring to industry scholarships. And
Oh,
they'll say they'll list industries or disciplines. Right. So yeah, we have a bachelor of science program, but for the industry ones, they often don't list industrial design.
gotcha.
So Donté, I'm sure, is on top of the whole notion of promoting the discipline generally, because there's ongoing confusion.
Well, yeah, and what this conversation again makes me think about is, those create barriers to continuing on in professional development in industrial design, right? Think about it. If your only pathway to continuing your education in industrial design is through scholarships, and you have no way to get those because the CIP code isn't correct, or it's not, the industrial design is not listed as a qualifying field, we lose so much in people who are innovative and creative, right? And who could possibly be moving our field forward and be, the next great industrial designer. So
Thank you. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. And I would like to invite Jayati just to share a little bit about your study journey at Art Center, since you mentioned that your program is actually really similar to industrial design, but it's actually considered STEM. So how does that look like?
I'm actually not sure how they separated them. Like, I didn't go to a school that didn't have STEM, so I don't know how they teach. To me, my bachelor's was also design, so to me it seemed similar, but I know we did learn a lot about human interaction, of like how products interact with humans. And we also had a thesis paper that we had to write in our last term. Maybe that makes it STEM, but I think that's like, we also learn how to build products, but I feel like that's all industrial design. So I'm not sure how it was different. Like, all the programs should be STEM, because I feel like all industrial designers learn how to actually build things, require some kind of math. Of course, I'm not going to compare myself to a mathematician, but some kind of engineering and some kind of mathematics. So I'm not sure how it was different, but I mean, I was lucky that mine was STEM. But even when I talk to people who did industrial design outside of Art Center, like, I didn't do industrial design, I did environments design, which is probably a little bit different. They study similar stuff.
I'd like to say that the STEM thing is not an academic, rigorous academic criteria.
Right.
It's made by the Homeland Security. They're the same people who keep you from taking a gun onto the airport. That's what they're thinking about, not like whether this is whether they're learning enough science or something.
Right.
So I think that's what so to me, it's much more about trying to get a good ratings so we can get other things that unlock those scholarships, allow international students to stay longer, all that kind of stuff. It's not whether or not specifically it's they learned the right formulas for steel or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think like before I did my master's, I definitely was not able to apply to a lot of programs because my bachelor's was not considered STEM. So I think that would be nice. Like now that I have a master's from a STEM program, I could probably apply for like if I want to do a PhD or something, and like I might qualify for that.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. And since we were talking about the international student situation, I would just like to invite Marty to share your thoughts, like as an employer, how does that affect your company and the hiring process?
Well, the way it's affected it in the past is we had a really great person from China, and we wanted her. She had, not only did she have a short window of time, but she was we tried to get her an H-1 visa and we couldn't even get through the lottery. And when you're doing a lot of research, global research in China, it's actually great to have somebody from China in your office to help coordinate before your team gets over there, and actually to go over there and knows where to go and what to do. And you sort of have the inside scoop. So, she was just great. And she was just really, really engaging. And I really loved having her around. So I was really sad to wake up one day and she was gone. I've actually been communicating with her now because my book's purportedly been translated into Mandarin, but I can't find it. And she was trying to see if she could find it in China. But in all honesty, how it impacts us today is, if you want to bring somebody on and they only have a year, it's kind of tough to just bring them on for a year versus having more time with them. And then, of course, the visa thing is just so messed up. So, because you might not even get, if you don't make the lottery, it's over. If they don't even pick you for further consideration, it's done and you have to go. So it hamstrings us as an employer, as a business, to get the people that we really want to have.
This actually reminds me, when I was applying for jobs, one of my points that I would use to be hired would be, I have STEM OPT, so I get 2 extra years with you. So now you don't have to spend any money for my immigration for 3 years. And that was a big thing. They didn't want to hire me just for a year and then have to do the process. So your point reminded me that definitely happened with me.
And the whole lottery thing, because of that, you don't know. It's literally a lottery. You don't know if somebody will get it or not. So for employers, it's very difficult to just keep going through the whole hiring process. Industrial design is not the kind of job that you can just like look at a resume and know they have the qualifications. There's a lot of, when you work with somebody, you learn a lot, and if you find somebody who works really well with the team, and then find out they have to go away in a year and then going through the whole thing again, it's very it's hard. And Tucker mentioned the Homeland Security definition of industrial design, and it's interesting because I do have an H-1B visa, and because of applying for that, I had to go through the Department of Labor definition of industrial design, which is far more technical. And it's interesting to know that the gap in the educational definition and the professional definition is so clear. Anything that's mentioned in the Department of Labor, it's called, I forgot what those codes are called, but it lists all of the softwares that you use, and it lists human interaction and psychology and manufacturing, all of the technical aspects of industrial design. So that should be incorporated in the educational definition as well.
Yeah, their definitions are very weird. Like when I went for my O1 visa interview, they asked me what do you like, how is your job performance art? I was like, what? I don't do performance. Like, I don't do dance or music. No, I don't know where, like, it literally in my interview, I had to say that's not what I do. And I was like, shit, am I not going to get my visa because the definition says that I do some kind of performance arts? I don't really know where that came from, but that was one of my questions for my O1 interview. Like, how is your job a performance art? I have no idea.
Because you have relevant aesthetic design parameters.
Yeah.
I believe the codes Divya was talking about are called SOC codes.
Yes.
Okay.
SOC or I will find those for you, but there are like 3 or 4 different organizations that have all of these like really long descriptions and statistics on every field. So it's somehow related to Department of Labor. That's where we pick it up from. So that would be a nice place to look if we want to revamp the definition for education as well.
Right. Marty, just to go back to, you know, the importance of like how that person in China helped you with research. How do you think the incorporation of research helps in terms of design and, you know, being considered STEM in a way?
Well, I mean, if you're teaching user research, typically that's from psychology, human factors psychology, human factors engineering, social sciences, whatever the case, sociology comes from many directions. So by default, that's science, and good user research follows the scientific method in a qualitative way, not in a statistically significant way.
Thank you, Marty. Speaking of this, I would love to invite Louise, since you came from a more like combination of engineering and industrial design, and how do you see that?
So I was actually, whilst I was listening to everybody, I was just noodling around in my alma mater. So I am going to age myself now and say that I graduated with my undergrad in 2006. When I was 18, was looking at the difference between industrial design and product design. And I did not understand the difference because it wasn't very well communicated. So I decided I really like physics and mathematics, even though I was discouraged taking them at my A levels. So those of you that are familiar with the education system in the UK, you specialize for 2 years in 4 subjects, and then you go to a 3-year degree program. So we don't really have a liberal arts model in that sense. So I decided, you know what, I'm going to take a chance on product design. It was a brand new program that was housed in the School of Mechanical Engineering at the University of Leeds. And I essentially, for my 3-year degree, took the foundation year of all of the engineering disciplines with design studios woven through them. So it was very deliberately crafted in a way that we applied the engineering principles with design, industrial design, essentially, application. So when I graduated, that was not classified as a STEM degree. I don't believe it still is classified as a STEM degree. So then, considering here that I did mechanics, materials, manufacturing, electrical and electronic programming, civil engineering as well, as part, and mechanical as part of my degree, yeah, it wasn't classified as STEM. So I just had a look now. It's accredited by the Institute of Engineering Design, which I thought was really awesome, actually, because now the accreditation has the word engineering in it. So from me feeling like I was the jack of all trades, master of none, I worked my way through and ended up in engineering, which I'm thrilled about. Went and did a stint in industrial design as a professor for 6 years, and decided that it still wasn't right for me. And now I'm back in the School of Engineering. So what I do teach on, and this is, I think, is interesting for this conversation, is Brown now has a concentration in design engineering. And it's foundational engineering from lots of different disciplines. There's psychology and all sorts of other bits and pieces thrown in. And this is the, I looked at this today and I thought, Tucker will find this interesting. Students can have because we have concentrations, a pathway, which is kind of like a focus. Guess what one of them is? Industrial design. So yeah, we're trying to get that sort of flavor in, but centered in engineering. So it's a really it's interesting for sure. And I'm part of a master's program as well, so that's a bachelor's of science, a master's program, which is Masters of the Art. So this one's different in design engineering. And what I like about this particular degree is that it states very clearly that we work in the intersection of design, engineering, and technology, and we leverage all of the intelligences in the room to solve problems, which I think in essence is kind of like industrial design. We don't know everything about everything, but we know enough to speak about it to the people that do and bring all of that together. And that's what I love about industrial design. So it is changing, and there is a massive pace of technology. And as I think Thomas had said, designers can now leverage all of these really awesome softwares to get a good idea and understanding, at least, of, say, plastic simulation for injection molding, and then make some tweaks to lightweight the product, which then has a better impact on, cost, planet, people, all of those fun things. So it is definitely changing. I think that industrial design needs to update itself. And I wonder if many programs have moved away from the word industrial and shifted it to product or integrated design or other words that don't stick with the old idea of aesthetic designers, the finishing touches, the designing from the outside, and we don't really care what happens inside. I think there's a communication change, a PR change that needs to happen. So I am on board with industrial design being thought of as a STEM subject, but not overstepping the bounds. Industrial designers aren't experts in everything. They're experts in bringing in a lot of really interesting ideas, technology, innovation, and bring it together. I find them to be the most valuable person in the team, if I wanted to use a sports metaphor. They're the ones that aren't necessarily celebrated, but they're the ones that bring it all together.
Thank you so much, Louise. This is so amazing. Thank you for sharing this. And before we move on, I would like to just open up to all the panelists, like, what are your thoughts on like the interdisciplinary nature of industrial design? Like, especially we have quite a few engineers in the room teaching design. So what are your thoughts? Oh, there's Donté.
Hi, Donté.
Donté?
Oh, is it right? Oh, I just want to echo, I think Louise made a good point. It was some of the thoughts that I was having, again, hearing some of the discussions, and I loved how she sort of made the visual of the intersectionality of a lot of these different disciplines and fields. And what I see as a commonality between all of those things is they all result in innovation, and industrial design, is included in that. And thank you, Louise, for saying like industrial designers are the MVPs. I agree with that. Right. And so I think when we think about collaboration and interdisciplinary impact of all of these different fields in collaboration and being a part of STEM, I think it's important because we have to bring all of these things, these elements together in the product development process, again, which includes industrial design. And these all lead to the best solutions, right, that are going to be sophisticated, that are going to be innovative, that are going to be human-centered, that are going to be and that are also going to be user-friendly. So I just wanted to echo what Louise said, because I think that I love her point in kind of thinking about the collaboration from that perspective as an intersectionality of all of these things that essentially produce innovation and have an impact on how humans use products.
Thank you, Donté.
Thank you.
Okay.
Well, I'll throw in a thought too to echo that the intersectionality being important, because one of the issues perhaps in industrial design is the tradition of the art faculty, where there's a very powerful foundation developed, and there's a lot of concerns with form study and doing visual analysis. and that's a strong and important part of styling. But I would say modern industrial design has to intersect with engineering, ergonomics, design research, and qualitative research, and they'd be unique where we can integrate them. We lose our contributions where we only talk about color palettes and form studies. So I think it's vital to connect it with STEM to the degree that they're extremely useful and can vertically proceed from wonderful concepts rooted in user-centric design research to an actual part. It's a beautiful thing to watch in my world anyway.
I love that, Thomas. That's amazing. I agree with you. I feel like there needs to be a shift away from so much energy on the traditional art-based approach to design and form. Yes, it's important, but there's so many other cool things that we could be working on as well.
Thank you. Louise, I would just love, oh, Tucker, you have some thoughts?
No, this is a technical thing. When when we're done, do all those comments over there disappear? Because is there some way we can record them? There's amazing statements in the chat.
We're
Yes.
having the comments being taken care of, so we should be okay.
Okay, good.
Mhm.
Thank you. Yes, Louise, I was just going to ask you about, like, you mentioned the misperception maybe from employers, and like I don't know if you've personally experienced this, but like having STEM for industrial designers, do you think that could like potentially change or like increase our salary in any way?
You know what? I can tell you from, oh gosh, I'm probably going to get in trouble here, but going from an ID faculty member to an engineering faculty, my salary went up dramatically. And I finally felt financially valued, and it was great. So I think that would be amazing for our undergrads that graduate from ID programs to feel that too, because they are so valuable. And even though I don't teach industrial design anymore, I still hang out with ID faculty from RISD, because RISD is just down the road from me. And I'm excited about what they're doing and how I can help. And it's yeah, I love it. It's great.
Thank you. Any other panelists would like to share thoughts on this?
Build on what she just said. There was an article recently talking about how people with STEM degrees make significantly more money than people without them. So, and then I just keep thinking about a student choosing a career, and because it's not considered STEM, they go away from it when they might actually be really good at it and love it.
Thank you. And Donté, just going back to you, I would like to ask you, like, how do you think the addition of industrial design being considered STEM field would impact the future workforce?
Sorry. I again, just sort of taking in the conversation, I feel like as we think about the future workforce, right, it sounds like it opens up more opportunities for industrial designers. But what also comes to mind for me is, as again, sitting from a person who is running an organization and looking at how things are happening globally, right? And how I see a lot of interconnectedness starting to happen, and seeing how we've talked also about interdisciplinary collaboration and impact of these different fields coming together. I feel like it's just going to be a no-brainer for the future workforce to have been participating in like a collaborative process in product development, and for industrial design to be a part of STEM. I think it in the future is just going to be an enhancement for industrial designers, and something that's just going to be necessary and essential to even more enhance the value of an industrial designer. So I think, again, I think it's something that is going to be essential as we look at the future workforce.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for sharing your valuable thoughts. We just want to be mindful of the time. So, Shaurya, can you just screen share?
So what is
Okay,
our plan
so
to get STEM?
yes, we talk so much about like what's wrong with the current situation, and we do want to share our proposed initiative with everyone. So, it's a little bit small, but yeah, I would just go through like what is the timeline and what are the steps that we will be taking with support from IDSA. So for now, we are doing the online panel to gather everyone's thoughts on the definition. And after collecting all these thoughts, we may be having a petition just to have everyone in the industry like sign and use this as a proof and like evidence for IDSA to advocate to Department of Education so we can redefine industrial design CIP code, because this is in charge by Department of Education. It's a little complicated in the process, but yeah. And then after the petition, IDSA will help us advocate for the definition. And then after that, after the definition is approved by Department of Education, we would like to potentially, we are still like thinking on this, but like maybe do another petition for nominate industrial design to be included in the STEM list. This is in charge by Department of Homeland Security, so it's another like governmental agency. And they do have this like window open for people who want to nominate their degree to be included in the STEM list. And we would like IDSA help us doing the advocacy work and just use everyone's collective voice to tell Homeland Security that, hey, like we updated our definition and we think it's eligible to be included in the STEM list, and can you consider that? So these are the next steps we would like to take to actually make this happen. And for the audience, like what you can help support us if we do create a petition, we will use your help to use your signature and then use your voice and power to convince the government that we actually need this and we want this. So Donté, I would just like to invite you, since you're the director of IDSA, how do you think IDSA can help support this initiative, and how would you like to take this forward?
Sure. So I think it's essential again for any association to really advocate and protect and move forward the industry and field that it represents. And so, as we've talked about and discussed, I think this is certainly a discussion I think that the board is willing to have at the board level. And I think if we are going to make any change, that we are going to need the help and the voice of IDSA to do that from an advocacy standpoint. And so I think immediate next steps are continued education on why this is important why the CIP is important to update, and advocacy around why industrial design needs to be a part of STEM, and then trying to work with the board to see if we can rally resources to make movement and move this forward. Also, I'd love to do some research on if any historical actions have been taken through the organization, also so that we don't recreate the wheel or repeat anything that might have already allowed us to make progress on this topic. But again, I think it's an important one, and I am committed to having the discussion with the IDSA board around advocacy for this particular topic.
Thank you so much, Donté. I would like to just use this opportunity to share the gratitude, because we started this initiative within Parsons and we encountered so many challenges, and we finally got to National IDSA, got contact with Donté, and he's really supportive. So hopefully this can actually happen and benefit all of us. Thank you so much. And just to be mindful of the timeline, I think it's time for us to jump into Q&A session. And before that, is there any final thoughts that any panelists would like to share? All right. Okay, Louise.
I'd like to express my gratitude to you, Joyce, and to Shaurya for putting together such a great panel and for really taking this on. It's incredible from when we spoke a few months ago to where you are now. I'd like to congratulate you on your passion and your perseverance.
Thank you so much, Louise.
Thank you.
While we're,
Yeah,
I just want to add one more pat on Joyce's back. Last night, Parsons did the selection process for the Student Merit Awards, and she was selected as the graduate nominee from Parsons.
Thank you. Thank you, Tucker.
Well, while we're throwing out compliments, I've been on a lot of panels, and most of them are poorly moderated. And you guys are doing an excellent job of moderating.
That's because we're industrial designers.
We did the science.
MVPs.
All right. Thank you so much. And I think it's great time for us to jump into our Q&A session. So I did see a really interesting comment in the Q&A. I believe all the panelists have access to that as well. So feel free to browse that. And here, script mentioned that I've heard it referred to as STEAM, science, technology, engineering, art, and mathematics. Perhaps would push, we should push for STEAM to be the term rather than STEM, given how interrelated all the fields are. I think this is interesting. What are your thoughts?
Actually, I've been involved with that before. I'm sort of contrarian in that regard. I'm opposed to that notion because art is much more valuable than styling. So industrial design has often been involved with styling. Art is quite different, and to drag it down to the point of it just being a dress up for STEM stuff is a diminishment of art. So I know that's sort of contrarian. I understand the idea of making things appealing, which is different than art. So it depends on your definition of art, and that this could be a super long topic, but that's my thoughts.
It sounds like a political nightmare to try and change the definition of STEM. It seems like we just want to make what's the quickest way to just change the definition of design within STEM?
Yeah, I mean, art and design are also different. Art is more personal, I think, and design is, yeah, it's different.
It's for the user.
Yeah, it's for the user. Yeah.
There's a question from Dave Harford that came about, like, where does this definition come from? Who wrote it? And how might we change it? I think we've kind of answered how we might change it. Who wrote it? It was written in the 1980s. And it was written, Homeland Security and the Educational Statistics wrote the CIP code. So that's where it came from.
It would seem like it would make sense for them to reach out to the association, right, to help craft that type of definition. But maybe that wasn't the thinking at the time. But that's interesting that that's how it was created.
Yeah.
And I think that the people who wrote that definition were not industrial designers. They were educators and mostly graphic designers who were trying to prove that graphic design was a real profession.
There is a question from Todd saying, have you noticed the app or UI designers now on the product design category? I think we do see that a lot on LinkedIn.
Yeah, that's one of my arguments for keeping industrial design is because all those digital designers have co-opted the product design. A product to them is some kind of app or some kind of website or anything that's not real. And so I think that I think that industrial design is a really good name because it's a little bit confusing and it seems like old fashioned, but it industrial has some power. It's like, you know, industrial strength cleaner is like a good cleaner, you know. So I think that my vote is to stick with industrial design. It's a good name and it's ours.
Um, the Department of Labor definition actually smushes them together. It UI, UX, and industrial design comes under the same SOC code. So that's interesting to note. And also there's a huge pay gap between industrial designers and product designers because this is how I understand it, product designers, digital designers, because they tend to work more in the tech industry. They are considered to be closer to STEM and tech than industrial. This is just perception, and this is what I think people see. And there's a very clear gap between the pay gap between industrial designers and digital product designers. So that's also
And
something to note.
I hate that because industrial designers are the ones who invented UX design. UX design came from out of the product design profession. Bill Moggridge wrote the book on it. You know, it's like this is the same with ergonomics and human factors and all that stuff. It's an industrial designers, babies of our profession.
And Don Norman and design of everyday things. I think that's where UX was coined. I'm not sure. But yeah.
Don't get me
He's a
started on Don
psychologist.
Norman.
He's a psychologist. Stay in your lane, Don Norman. I'll be controversial and say that human factors is actually a child of engineering.
Wow.
But we can co-parent if you like.
Okay.
Deal.
One question I thought that was somewhat interesting, which is from Trip Dinger. Would it be helpful for IDSA to get involved in the maker movement to help get STEM to become the big deal it currently is, thus getting industrial design access to more advocacy to change the CIP definition?
Add on to that, Trip had another question. Is IDSA going to try reaching out to Adam Savage to help get industrial design more of a presence in the public sphere?
Yeah, so that's what I mean by doing a little bit more research on this before, just sort of making stance and commitments. I want to just learn the landscape, one, and be more informed about this, and for the board to also be more informed about this, because what we don't want to do is do the same things that's been done before, and it lands us right back, to not making any progress. So, I'm glad Tucker asked about the Q&A in the chat, because I've seen some of these things come through that I just want to do more research and look more into, that it sounds like might be useful for us, that there's some leeway already being made on these things that RDSA can just jump in and be collaborative with.
Thank you, Donté.
I would be curious about the K through 12 space. The reason I say that is because I find that industrial design is used as a hook to get people into engineering. And then when they get to engineering, they're like, I'm not designing products. What? This isn't what I wanted. So if we can get in at the younger age to explain that, no, this is the coolness of industrial design. That thing that you're being missold as engineering.
And Louise, I know that's one of the things that also the IDSA board has been discussing, and also how we do that collaboratively too with the Design Foundation. I know for one of the current initiatives that the Design Foundation has is they've developed these industrial design posters, And we are asking members or certain members to volunteer to go and talk to high school classrooms about industrial design, right? And just leave the poster in the classroom. So, and it has a QR code that leads you back to IDSA's website. So you can really just, scan that poster and learn a little bit more about what industrial design is. So I know that that has been a topic of conversation. While we haven't done any initiatives or any action on reaching back into K-12 education and being present there, but I think that will probably be one of the focuses of the board in the future.
I know it's changed a lot from my perspective. I have so many freshmen and high school graduates that come in and they know all about industrial design. They know exactly what they want to do, and way more than even 10 or 15 years ago.
Yeah, in our world, we get a lot of transfer students. We get one category are art students who say, how do I apply my interest in art? And that's one big category. And another category are engineers that are, or engineering students that get frustrated with being stuck in analytics rather than invention and concept design. So unlike you, Jace, I guess we have a different situation. We get some passionate high school students, but we get probably just as many students coming from other disciplines. But I love the maker quite involved with that. That's a big, the idea of getting together in a social context and saying, let's create something of their own making without anybody watching us and telling us what to do is an absolutely wonderful thing. And it taps into the joy and wonder that we all have. And that's really the basis for those of us that entered industrial design. We love the world of wonder and what's over the horizon. We just can't help ourselves. And we just need the tools to do it. And the maker movement is part of that.
Yeah, one thing that helps with us being in the engineering and design department is that we'll have an introduction engineering course that all of the majors take together. And so they get to rub elbows with the engineering students and the ID students. And then some of them will switch from one to the other as they learn more about each other. And that's been a valuable introduction in the freshman year.
Yeah, we have the same experience.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing thoughts on this question. And the next question, I guess, is for me and Shaurya to answer. Jane asked that, IDSA in new school, did you research the relationship between CIP code and require mandatory instruction? Shaurya?
So with regards to that, it's kind of, like they believe, like when you're going to say that the CIP code needs to match what's being practiced, you kind of, I guess, submit the curriculum and they kind of go to that. If anybody else can speak on this, it would be great. But it's not necessarily that they're very strict on how much it follows. They want to, like, because there's like thousands of universities in the school, there's 1,000 degrees. So it's just simply the curriculum needs to kind of support that the CIP code is there. There's a lot of rumors of, like, oh, it needs to be like 60% of the CIP code to work, 80%. And these are all like numbers that we can't confirm, but we've heard. And so, yeah, that is what we know.
We did get another question, like, do you have a list of colleges, universities in the US that are using an alternate CIP code that is STEM designated for their industrial design programs? What is WISP using? I believe
using human-centered.
Yeah, we did reach out to them when we were starting this initiative to get their help and see what they did. And I think this is more like things that you don't ask, you don't tell, which CIP code you're actually using.
Yeah.
I would say though, as a prospective international student, I think you can just reach out to the school and ask them what CIP code they're using, and if it comes under STEM before actually committing to a program. I think that's allowed.
There is another question from
Dave.
Laurie.
Hello, yes. Well, just to jump on what Dave is saying, yes, those are kind of the two options. Like the options are to either, which is what we're doing now, we're trying to rewrite the existing CIP code. But I think if you adopt a human-centered design, that would also work perfectly fine, because human-centered design does mention product design, and a lot of universities across the states are using that.
But I think that it's important
That we can
not just
consider
to switch
STEM.
our CIP code, but I think as this discussion is highlighting, the idea of what industrial design is a great topic and has to be figured out. And if we're going to, become a more important profession.
Thank you. And I want to thank Todd for sharing this document for updating CIP list. I will forward this to Donté for future research use. And the question that Laura was asking was, we were first defined by industry, but the discipline has grown up to its own identity. Is there a mission statement you as a panel have simmered on to date? Do you have an arena to continue this discussion? I think we can ask Donté about this.
Sorry, what was the question again? I think I missed it. I was trying to find it, but I didn't see it.
Yeah, sorry, it's like messed up in the chat. We were first defined by industry, but the discipline has grown up to its own identity. Is there a mission statement you as a panel have simmered on to date? Do you have an arena to continue this discussion?
Oh, I think the short answer is, I mean, IDSA, I think, is the arena where this discussion should continue. As far as thinking about industrial design and the evolution of what that means, I think, again, that's a continuing conversation that I'm hearing members in our board have. I think what the theme is that I'm hearing from a lot of the discussions I'm having with members around industrial design, or the definition of industrial design, is that it needs to expand and be more inclusive. But I think, again, as far as an arena to continue having that discussion, that's what I feel like IDSA is here for, and where these types of discussions can continue to happen. Before we got on the panel, I told Joyce and Shaurya that we should do this panel again, but do it in front of the larger IDSA audience, to give even more people an opportunity to participate in this discussion and contribute. So yeah, for sure, I think there's an arena for this continued discussion.
Thank you so much, Donté. We would definitely love to continue this initiative and push it as far as we can. And okay, I think we are right on time. We did get some other comments that we didn't get to address, but I think we covered a lot today. And I just want to thank all the panelists today for sharing all your valuable thoughts. It's definitely very helpful and beneficial for us and IDSA to continue this. And thank you all the attendees for joining us today. This session, this panel is recorded, and we will be sharing it after the video is processed. So any other last comments or thoughts?
Nice chat GPT.
I was just gonna say the same thing.
Joyce and Shaurya and Tucker, I just want to thank you also and all of the other panelists for letting me participate in this, and your patience and the opportunity just to be here with all of you. I know I'm not as much of an expert as you all are, but I appreciate the grace that you've extended me and allowing me to be a part of this. And like I said, I've enjoyed this conversation, and I'm congratulations for putting this on and making it successful.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Thank you, Jason, for the definition.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
Hope
thank
you
you
all
for
have
your
a good
work.
night.
Thanks for the invite.
Thank
Nice
you.
to
We will
see
be sharing the
everybody.
recording. Thank you. Have a good
Don't
night,
lose
When the
everyone.
petitions
chats.
come out, we won't. It's gonna be recorded, but when the petition comes out, everybody spread the word. If it comes out.
You can count on me. I'll spread the word.
Thank you.
Nice to meet everyone.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you
Goodbye,
so
all.
much.
Bye.
Have a good night, everyone.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night.
Hey, Vladimir, make sure we don't lose all the